So I'm here with James Phinney. He is one of the developers behind an awesome game I just played. It's by Motiga. It's called Gigantic. How long have you been working with Motiga for? And is Gigantic their first game or? Okay.
So Gigantic is the first game developed by Motiga. I've been there about 2 years, working on almost 2 years now. And we started with a pretty small team and had some general ideas about wanting to do something awesome, competitive game with giant monsters in it, and then had to figure out what that meant and how to make sure it would actually be cool.
All right, awesome. And why don't you just give a quick elevator pitch of what exactly Gigantic is? Because I think it's a game not too many people know about right now, and just the basics. What does it do?
Yeah, so Gigantic is definitely a fast-paced, I think dynamic and fluid PvP game. It features unique heroes with interesting skill sets. It brings in different traditions. So I sometimes just tell people the game is part shooter, part action game, and part MOBA. In addition to the heroes, you've got a giant creature called a Guardian. The Guardian is actually the objective in the game. You're trying to kill the enemy team's Guardian. Everything you do in the game is powering up your Guardian, which helps it to attack. And whenever your Guardian goes on the attack, that's when you've got a chance to wound the enemy Guardian.
Awesome. And it's a third-person game. And when I was playing, I felt like there are a lot of MOBA-like aspects. I feel like a lot of gamers, if they haven't played the game, they're going to, I would almost say, unfairly compare it to Smite. How do you guys intend to get around that initial opposition of, that comparison?
Sure. I think the more that there's video footage of the game out there or people have played it, they won't really think of it and Smite as being that similar. Certainly, both games draw from MOBA tradition. Smite probably was aiming for a more traditional thing in terms of lanes and creeps and all that kind of stuff. But, I think have made very different choices about what they are. There's a verticality to the game, a fluidity, a sort of speed to it that I think is very different.
There are a lot of characters in the game right now. About how many are there and how many are planned to come out in the future?
Yeah. We'll see how many we have out for release. Right now, the build that we're showing today has 16 heroes in it. When we play internally at the office, there are 23, though the difference there, most of those guys don't have real art or animations. The process for animating them and getting the concepts right and doing kind of all the visuals and tuning takes a while, but actually most of the time is play balance and making sure that the character fits in well. One of the things we do with this game that's pretty different is the characters are designed for people with different gaming backgrounds and sort of playstyle choices. So there are characters that feel like, if you're playing them, you feel like you're just doing shooter things. There's a sniper as one of the characters in here, and you're, right-click and you're zoomed in, and you, depending on what upgrades you're getting bonuses for headshots, and you're really focused on sort of playing in a shooter kind of way. And then there are characters where aiming doesn't matter at all. You think in the game you played, you had somebody on your team playing as Griselma, and she's summoning these portal beasts, these hand creatures that are placed around the map, and so it's just much more about positional and tactical play. And there's a whole range there. Characters meant for action game. One of the characters we're showing new at PAX East is Wu, and he's sort of martial arts acrobatic character. He's actually meant for people who like fighting games because his skills have a lot of, depending on how you upgrade them, sort of combo chain sort of things, and he's very sort of fast reaction times and high rate of input and kind of more advanced muscle memory you need to play him well, and so it's for people who are into that. And what we've tried to do is sort of cover this whole spectrum of am I interested in sort of Twitch gameplay or complex skill interactions and build characters for that. Because of that, definitely takes us a while to make sure that new characters are going to be just right.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a really interesting concept when I was playing because, most games, this is one genre and you have to learn how to play that. And, I saw a whole mix of different play styles. How early in development did you guys decide to go that route? And how much has that been, the guiding principle of let's bring in as many different play styles as possible?
Yeah, it was basically from the start, but it wasn't what we thought of as one of the pillars of the game. It was, I had wanted for quite a while to try to do a game that had good shooting, good melee, and good spellcasting in it, but didn't necessarily formulate that around the idea of thinking of specific characters as being for people with different gaming backgrounds. As we started to think about it more, I said, why don't I try this out? Like, just say, I'm going to make a character for this person in the office, make a character for this person, because this guy can't aim. This guy's got shaky hands. This guy, gets overwhelmed if the skill interaction is too complicated, but it's good Twitch skills. And then once we started to actually try it out, we got really encouraged with it and decided to sort of go all in with the concept.
And I mean, there are so many different things I want to talk about in the game. I feel like one of the most interesting features of the game is that guardian that you have. How many guardians are there? Are there plans on different, just looks of the guardian? Are there even different stats for the individual guardians, or are they all just kind of the same?
Yeah. So right now we just have the two that you saw in the build today. We're planning on more. We've concepted more. We haven't started work on any of them. The guardians are so intimately tied to the core mechanics of the game, to everything about the pacing of the game, that when you're working on a competitive game like this, there's so much iteration that has to happen to get things right that I've been waiting until the game gets to a point where we really felt like we'd nailed everything before we started doing another guardian, because them especially, it's like their entire animation list changes based on us changing some mechanics in the game. We have pushed at times to make the Guardians more differentiated behavior-wise and things like they had different attacks in the build. You played today. We've done stuff with more extreme stat changes and stuff like that didn't always work out for us. We're going to be doing a pass, game's in alpha right now, I should say. We'll be doing a pass after this. In fact, one of the guys that did not come to PAX is working on Guardian behaviors right now. Saturday today? Okay, he was working on them yesterday, hopefully. We are looking at differentiating them, but the last time I did it sort of threw off the balance in the game altogether and sort of brought into question all these mechanics that we were experimenting with other mechanics at the same time, and so we sort of removed that mostly from the equation. Like I said, they have different attacks, and we're going to get right back into that now because we really feel like the core flow of the game has gotten to a pretty good point.
Mm-hmm. And you previously worked on Guild Wars, correct? How has that influenced how you've approached designing the game?
Yeah, so the big sort of PvP games I've worked on are as lead designer on StarCraft and Guild Wars 1, and then design director in Guild Wars 2. And even though I think the parallels to Guild Wars 1, you can sort of see some mechanics in Gigantic more directly, StarCraft also influences it in terms of how I looked at PvP and what you're trying to do. And a lot of that comes down to trying to provide players with a canvas and sort of a set of tools and give them creative options, give them different ways to approach strategy and try to create cool moments for dramatic reversal during the match. One of the big difficulties in a competitive game is trying to make sure that people are earning progress, that their strategic decisions matter, but not make it so that okay, we're 5 minutes in, and we know who's won, and now we're just going to watch it play out over the next 20, 30, 40 minutes. And so there are a lot of deliberate choices, such as the small windows during which the Guardians are vulnerable, that provide opportunities for a team that's had things go wrong to earn cutting back into the game. Like the game that you guys played in was actually a really good example of that, right? You were down early, down in the middle of the game, sort of clawed back into it a little bit, but clearly at a disadvantage as we got into the final climax. You defended well, turned around, and then had one really big encounter where you decisively turned it around and finished off the game. Really had to kind of throw guys in on this sort of suicide pitch to get that last damage on the Guardian, did it, and pulled out the comeback victory. And, all the mechanics that sort of made that possible, it's sort of deliberate choices design-wise to try to make sure that we made a competitive game that creates better stories, is a better experience, making sure that the whole time that any reversal that you get is something that you earned. In terms of more specifics, I went sort of far afield there, you can look at some of the basic structure in Gigantic, and it is based on Guild Wars 1 GVG. That was actually one of the things when we were starting the project of so how do we bring in these giant creatures and heroes in PvP, and the fact that people kind of want to focus on killing the other players? And, I felt like, okay, I've done that before. I've seen it work well. There were other things with, the limited windows on the Guardians in terms of being vulnerable. There was this emotional aspect to the way killing a guild lord worked in GW1, where, yeah, once you'd wiped the enemy team and you were actually doing damage to him, you knew you were going to get it. He wasn't defending himself. He was just going to go down. But that didn't feel like a weakness. It felt like that was the reward that you had earned, and you were collecting it right then. And so that gave me the confidence to set up the kind of structure that we had in Gigantic. There's also Guild Wars 1 GVG supported like this combination of like playing together as a team and then split play to force the other team to react. And there's a lot of that in Gigantic with the creatures that you summon, the ability to like go back cap, sort of pressure back, force the other team to split to respond to you. So there's a lot structurally based on Guild Wars 1, and then a lot of lessons learned in terms of things that maybe didn't work as well pacing-wise there. I thought I could do a better job of here. And then also differences because this game's different. Different ways we want to approach it and ways to try to make things cooler.
I mean, yeah, I definitely recognize a lot of the turnaround moments in that game. It was a ton of fun. The game also has a really unique aesthetic to it. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that and what inspired the aesthetic, what influenced, and why you decided to go that really just unique. I'd almost say, is it cel-shaded?
It's not technically, but it definitely feels like it's in that space in terms of how things work. There are lighting and material tricks that I could not explain to you that the guys do to sort of get the flatness of look there without it being completely self-shaded or flat. It really, during early stage of the project, we weren't there. We knew we wanted to do something stylized. We wanted to do something that looked unique, and we wanted it to, there's something about being stylized that helps you kind of be timeless rather than like, because that looks photorealistic in the way that every game that came out in that year looks photorealistic, right? And then having to be colorful too. But early on, we still, despite having said all those things, really weren't hitting it. And what it came down to was really just talking to the artists on the team and telling them, like, game development, there are a lot of influences that get involved. And so getting to tell them, like, look, just make art. Don't worry about commercial questions. Don't worry about market questions. What's this look like? What's that like? What are we trying to hit target-wise? What demo cares about this? Or all the kind of ridiculous things that sometimes get discussed at game studios. So just make stuff that you guys think is cool. And then it was a process from there, but when the guys felt free to, they started to push each other. Our lead animator's doing a paint over of a model or a concept that somebody's done, saying, like, can't it be more like this? We have guys, and it sort of didn't matter. We really worked hard to create that culture where it's like, you guys talk to each other and listen to each other. And we've tried to hire artists who are very thoughtful about their craft and are open to the collaborative process. And as they've pushed each other, we feel like we've started to hold each other to higher and higher standards as far as that go and get a cohesive look. It's been a challenge for the team. One of the things we've talked about sometimes publicly is there's no art director on the team. And so it can be hard to get a cohesive look and to push boundaries without that. You need strong voice, and so it's really just a challenge I put to the whole art team to, like, step up, be willing to put themselves out there creatively, be willing to express their ideas, even if sometimes they're going to get shot down by the other guys. Be open to having somebody else paint over your stuff and say, what about this? And, fortunately the guys have similar values about, what they're hoping to achieve. They're all really committed to trying to make stuff as cool as possible, and they feel good about what they've done so far. That helps a lot to get some stuff, to have it look cool, to have positive response to it, and so they've all dived in.
I mean, yeah, that's great. That sounds like it's a really interesting way to try and develop. And I know I'm impressed with the game. I think a lot of journalists here are impressed with the game, but I think more importantly, Microsoft was impressed enough with what you guys are doing to get you guys to be almost, I think, exclusive to Windows 10 and Xbox One. Should you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this is a deal we just announced this week. Obviously, we've been in discussions with them a while, though it's actually a pretty recent change for us on the development front. We are coming out for both Windows 10 and Xbox One later this year. You'll have one gigantic account across both platforms, all platforms. The game's free to play, so you just download it, make an account, right? And any progress you make, any skins you buy, any of that kind of stuff carries over wherever you log in. So go over to your buddy's house, play on his PC or his Xbox One, or playing at home, or if your relatives somehow have a good gaming system over the holidays, you could do that too. And really, that's the ideal for us as developer, is reducing the barriers we have to people playing the game and trying to make sure that we make it as possible, get rid of all the hassle as much as possible. There's not some weird sign in this way there. It's just get in and play.
Okay, and is the game is going to be exclusive Windows 10? Does that mean it won't be available for previous Windows versions? I know Microsoft is going to do free upgrades to Windows 10 if you have 7 and 8, but will I be able to play on 7 and 8 if I'm wary about 10?
We are focused on making the game for Windows 10 and Xbox One right now. It's definitely a part of talking about partnership, and we had our questions about it, and Windows 10 upgrade being free was definitely one of the things that, if that had not been the case, we wouldn't have been comfortable sort of making the deal. But we're just focused on trying to make this thing work. I think that there's a lot of good that comes out of it, and so we're happy to be a part of trying to. It's obviously it's a big gamble and a big move by Microsoft, but for a company like that, the real question is sort of what are their values, what are their goals? Are they focused on the right things? And we felt really confident talking to the leadership on the gaming side there, not just in terms of what their goals were, but in terms of whether or not the rest of the company would let them do things. And so they're smart guys there, and they're really trying to make this work in a good way for players out there. And so we're happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you mentioned earlier that there was going to be one account between systems. Does that mean that there might also be crossplay between them?
Yes, though, it's one of the things when we talked to them, they really wanted to look for opportunities to do that, and we immediately all said, that's great, but this is a competitive game, and and we know what it takes to make a great shooter on console and what it takes to make a great shooter on PC, and it turns out that those things are a little bit different. Just because of input device, it's different. You get, aim assist kind of stuff, and you could very easily see console players feeling like they're at a disadvantage against somebody with keyboard and mouse player feeling like they're playing against somebody who's cheating, that's got some kind of aim assist, and people being unhappy. And so we immediately said, we are on board to do that as an opt-in. Everybody in the match needs to be okay with being in that ecosystem. And I think it's great to say, hey, you can play with your friends. However you guys want to play. It doesn't matter who has what system, whatever, just let's make it so you can play together. But that given the competitive nature of Gigantic, we also really need to respect that and preserve that and make sure that when people are rage quitting, it's for the right reasons, not the wrong ones.
Awesome. I actually think that's definitely the best approach to that. I don't think I've seen any other game do crossplay, at least not in that regards. So thank you so much for the interview. Guys, this is Gigantic by Motiga. I almost said Montego. By Motiga. It's a great game. I just got to play it. Look for it to come out sometime this year. It's currently in alpha. It's going to be in beta soon, correct? Ish.
Yeah, soon. We'll see how soon we can get there. But given that we're expecting to release this year, beta can't be that far away. You can sign up for alpha now, or for more information for beta. The website is gogigantic.com.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you again, and I hope you have a great PAX.
Thanks.